Hello, good morning. Today we're on Radio Seku, and in cooperation with Society by Radio in Sarasota. And today we have a great guest, a good friend, a longtime friend. Her name is Carolee Porter. Carolee Porter is a world traveler. I believe she's been to 5 continents and
7.
into 25 different countries. Carolee, good morning, Carolee.
Good morning, Seku.
Welcome to Seku Radio. Carolee, before we start, can you introduce yourself to our listener?
My name is Carolee Porter. I live in Sarasota, Florida. I originally hail from Boston, Massachusetts area. I got into traveling probably in the late 90s, and I traveled a lot with my mother. I've been to all 7 continents. I don't know how many countries, at least 25. My mother was my first travel partner, and then I've traveled with other people since. And I have also helped people with planning their travel, as well as people ask me lots of questions, and the questions that I answer help them with their own planning. My background is I have a degree in broadcasting and worked in television many years, and I work in the business field right now, but I still am planning travel. So that's a little bit about me.
Now you're talking about broadcasting. I know from the past you did some work for the Olympic in Salt Lake City. Can you tell us a little bit about what you did in Salt Lake City Winter Olympic?
That was probably one of the greatest things I ever had a chance to be a part of. I worked in Salt Lake, and our station was an NBC affiliate. And we then were the host station for the 2002 Olympics that took place in Salt Lake City. In addition to that, I also signed up to be a volunteer. So I would work my job in the day and then work the Olympics at night. And this went on for, maybe 2 months before and after the Olympics. I worked in the main press center. And I also worked the ice skating and the speed track skating, the real fast short track. That was really exciting. It was absolutely a fabulous experience. And I really was in a place of trust. I didn't have to shovel snow or be a chauffeur or anything. I got the cool job. I was in the main press center where a lot of interviews took place with the athletes. I loved it.
Great. Today, we're going to ask you some questions about your world travel experience,
Sure.
your global travel going around the world.
Yeah.
How you go about organizing your travel? How you go about it, selecting what continent to go to, what country to go to, and what are the ABC of how you travel to this country? Do you need a vaccination? I know I've done a lot of travel myself. It's not just easy to pick up luggage and go. So you need to have a passport. Just tell us first, what is your routine? How you go, how you organize your travel?
Okay, to begin with, all trips are planned way out, like 1 year, even 2 years. The reason is because, there are a lot of people like me that want to make payments on a trip. So when I go off on a trip, it is paid for by cash in advance. So I don't have any debt, which is great. And it's a smart way to travel. I also pick places that I want to see. I've done all the major cities that anybody would want to see. I am now picking places where I'm off the beaten path. And like right now, I have a trip coming up the beginning of October, and this is to Israel and Jordan. I have been there. And when I did it before, we added Egypt on. This is a repeat trip because it was just absolutely a fabulous place to visit. There was so much to learn that you couldn't take it all in. It's a trip that I'd have no problem doing it second time. And so what I did is I picked this one, maybe over a year ago, and picked it specifically for the time of year, for how much it would cost, and so the planning begins there. I pick something I want to do, put it way out there, then you do the plan, you figure out the finances, and then right now I'm getting ready with all the packing. The next thing I do is I'm very flexible. I had a trip a year and a half ago that I had to cancel, but I transferred money over to an African safari. So in other words, you got to be kind of flexible because there's uncertainties in the world. There are some areas are difficult to travel. On the main big giant trips, I have gone with organized groups, but I have also planned my own trips. And I'm very meticulous on making sure that I'm planning with reputable companies. One of the things I work with a friend who has a travel agency, and a lot of people like to plan their own travel. The danger in that is if you do something like one of these online companies and they want you to pay in advance, that place may not be there when you get there. So you want to be really careful, and I am super careful. As far as immunizations and everything, a good website to go to for some of these things, that would be the CDC website, the Centers for Disease Control. They always have a list, as well as the website for the U.S. Department of State, which is a really good website because they also tell you what areas are not very safe. So that's kind of how I do it, is safety, what I want to see, is it on my bucket list, and then also who I'm going with, or if I'm going to do a trip alone. So by putting all those together and planning it way out, I don't think I've ever done a trip from beginning to end in less than a year. Then I feel comfortable when I go and I don't have fears. There you go. How's that?
Oh, good. What are the standard operating procedure of travel? I mean, we call it SOP. For someone who has never traveled before, mainly overseas, what they need to get. I also know that some area of the world travel, you need a vaccination. So you mentioned the CDC, you mentioned the U.S. Department of State. So for someone who's never been anywhere before except just within U.S., what they need to have ready and what are the SOP, standard procedure operations, they need to do?
You know what? I have actually helped a lot of first-timers. More often with, I've done some Europe trips with people where I basically had to coach them and said, ask me all your questions, because I've done it so many times. The other one is I get a lot of people that are doing first-time cruises. I've done 25 cruises. If you have some moments with that person, I tell them, plan in advance. Plan your packing carefully. Packing is a big deal. You don't want to bring too much stuff and you don't want to bring too little. I tell them about where to go, and I always carry foreign money with me. Not a whole lot, just enough to be able to buy a meal, and if I need to tip, I carry a lot of $1 bills. I tell them about the etiquettes. A lot of people, when they go over there, they're American and they think that everything's easier, but the language barriers and other issues, it's not always easy to not get lost. In fact, I did get lost once in Rome, but I had a 20 euro in my pocket, and I had a map back to the hotel. Um, I was jet lagged, and went down to the Coliseum, and I came out the wrong way. And it was probably about 3 hours of walking around in the dark in Rome. And that taught me a big lesson about, that was in the early days of travel. Now I'm an awful lot more careful, and I coach people, plan carefully, know where you're staying. Don't wander off the path too much. Yes, there are great adventures out there, but know where you're going. The new first timers, I had a couple that went to Italy for the first time. Actually, they'd never been to Europe, and they turned out to have an amazing time. And I told them, learn about the place you're going. So many people have gone on the cruises. I've told them about how the ship works, and about, the meal times and the excursions. And, they think that they can just get off and just wander off, but some countries, it's not necessarily the safest thing to do. So anyways, I've done what I can to help people, and I've never had anybody come back that had a crisis, which is really wonderful. Also, one other little tip in there, I tell people, don't go on a trip without trip insurance. Be able to recoup if something happens. You never know what's happened. We've lost luggage. We've had things stolen. Not too often, because we're really careful, but you want to always make sure that you have all your safety nets, you've planned carefully, and that you always leave a plan with your family, somebody, so they know where you are. And then go have fun.
Now, you mentioned all that. That was very good. So packing, for example, I know how to pack because I see some people with the big suitcases, 1, 2, 3. Is that a fair way to travel?
You know what? Yeah, you're funny. That was me, and it's not me anymore. I gave away the huge suitcase. I don't travel with anything over a 26-inch suitcase and a backpack. I usually carry a laptop. The trip I've got coming up, I'm going to see if there's any way I can get less than that. Plus a camera bag. I have a good camera I take. You don't have to take everything with you. I have actually had the situation, you're going to want to buy something when you're on a trip. That's another whole other story. You don't need to bring a lot of souvenirs home. We used to do that and bring presents home, and for all the grandkids, and moms did that. But you don't need to do all that. You can have things shipped. The suitcases, a really good website to check out for some of these things that I actually use is ricksteves.com. I don't mean to do a commercial for him, but he does a very good job of giving simple instructions on things like packing, what you need, what you don't need. And that's kind of what I go by. I am taking less. Also, I take clothes that can be washed and dried within a day. So I have good stuff that I purchase from like LLB, people, or Magellan's, who are experienced in clothing for travelers. So, that's kind of how I've done it. And I've had much better luck. My suitcases are lighter. Also, one little trick, always, always, always roll your clothes in your suitcase. And if you roll them, they don't wrinkle, and they fit more things in there, just so you know. But you probably already know that.
Yeah.
How's that?
That was good. We are on Secure Radio, and our guest is Carolee Porter. And if you just join us, we are talking about the world travels, experiences, and tips. Let's talk about vaccination, because I travel. It was a time you have to go to a healthcare department to get some vaccination. Some people don't take that seriously. How you go about that?
Okay, here's something that I've just, I get these alerts from, there's a website that gives me all the updates on requirements, and CDC would be another website. Some countries are now requiring that you have a vaccination, it's like a folded card that you carry with you.